we're off. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our event celebrating the resiliency, inspiration, and celebration of women entrepreneurs. It is my absolute pleasure to be here helping to facilitate this conversation. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the lands that I'm on, which is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Okanagan and Silks people. And I invite you to take a moment to identify the lands that you are on. Thank you everyone for being here. And this event could not be possible without some amazing partners, some women entrepreneurs. And over the course of the next hour, we're going to showcase what resiliency and inspiration can look like through our amazing panel. I'll introduce them in a moment. But first, I would like to take a moment to allow our presenting partners to tell you a little bit about themselves, because this idea started in a conversation over the phone. How can we celebrate women entrepreneurs? And so we brought to the table the Penticton Chamber of Commerce and the Penticton Women in Business to come together in this amazing event. So I'd like to start by handing it over to Terry, who's going to tell you a bit about the Penticton Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us. My name is Terry Phillips. I am the events coordinator here at the Chamber, and I work very closely with Diane, who is our executive director. And Diane has been with the Chamber now just over coming on almost 2 years. She relocated here from Edmonton. And we like to surround ourselves with strong women, and we're so incredibly thankful that we have strong women on our board, have submitted their names to join our board, as well as ambassadors and on our committees. We've recently relocated to, we're right on Lakeshore, so we're right beside the famous Peach. So you cannot miss us. So when you're driving by and you're getting an ice cream cone, please stop in and say hello. We have incredible views of the lake, and this location is probably one of the best ones that we can be at right now. It makes us relevant and present and very known in the community. And we have lots of people that are stopping in right now, even just to find out what winery to go to, or where should they eat some dinner, where should they shop. So if you have any questions at all, we have lots of information on our website about the Chamber, tons of events happening, all virtual right now. We hope to move into in-person as orders open up and we're able to do so safely, but we will need to, our main responsibility is to support our local businesses by keeping them safe. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Terry. Now I'll turn it over to Marlene.
Well, we've already alluded to this in our chatting earlier, but sharing conversations over food and wine and coffee and some other beverages, beer, whatever you choose, or even an ice cream cone, is a great way to grow and develop personally and in business. And that's pretty much how Penticton Women in Business was born 20 years ago, when a few women were chatting over some beverages and thinking about how we work and think a little differently than men. And we were looking for opportunities to explore and embrace that. Over the years, Penticton Women in Business has grown substantially, organically and by design. And we have been holding luncheon meetings featuring presentations and networking, as well as many other special events for over 2 decades now. And like everyone else right now, we're meeting virtually. And yet we are very proud to be able to continue to offer to all who are interested a community of support, interaction, networking, discussions, sharing, encouragement, ideas, and education. And we are especially pleased to be a part of this virtual event today. And welcome everyone.
Fantastic, Marlene. And Marlene shared with me that she is one of the founders of Penticton Women in Business. So it's an absolute honor to have you. And thank you for all of the work that you've done over these years to support women entrepreneurs. It certainly does not go unnoticed. And I'm also excited to tell you about Women's Enterprise Center. This is the organization that I'm representing today. And our mission is to help BC women start and grow businesses so they can reach their full potential. And we do this through a couple key ways. So we have a loan program. We lend exclusively to women-led businesses, and those loans go up to $150,000. And whether you're starting or growing, expanding your business, you can apply for this funding. With COVID and everything that's been happening, we do have some additional programs. For example, the Triple RF program, the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. And we also have a brand new program. We launched a funding program with Van City. So if you are looking for financing for your business, or now there's a bit of a grant available if you've been negatively impacted by COVID, I really encourage you to reach out as there are some deadlines to look for. We also offer professional services, so free business advising. Whatever stage of business you're at, we can get you in touch with the people to help you get unstuck. You know, what does it take to move you along in your business journey? We have skills training, so webinars and workshops. Right now we have about 3 a week. So whatever learning you're looking for, we probably have some content about that. We also have our mentoring programs. Right now, I think we have 5 different mentoring programs, from peer learning to one-on-one. So if you're looking to get a mentor, or if you are looking to volunteer as a mentor, we would love to engage with you. And then lastly, we are all about a supportive community. We are about raising the tide for women entrepreneurs, celebrating them, showcasing them, sharing their stories. And that's really what we are here to do today. And here's a photo of me. So I'm Danielle Hofer. I am the outreach officer at Women's Enterprise Center. And we have an amazing team of women entrepreneurs who represent Women's Enterprise Center around the province. And I help to connect them in the different areas, making sure that the resources are available for you, no matter how rural you live, how you live your life, you should be able to access these resources. And here are some tips about using our webinar today. We're actually in meeting format. So what I will suggest is, if you have a question, please submit it in the Q&A. Does everyone have the Q&A available on your screen? I got a thumbs up. Okay, so we will be monitoring that during this session. I have some questions that I'm really excited to ask, but there will be some time for interaction. So my hope is that the questions I ask will get your brains turning around what you're wanting to glean and learn from these amazing women entrepreneurs. Okay, and we also have the chat. So anything that you want to just, keep it engaging, anything that you want to share, throw that out there. Let's make this interactive and make the most out of this hour together. And now I get to introduce our esteemed panelists. So I'm going to start by reading a short bio about them, and then we're going to segue into the panel, and I'll highlight them across the screen so you can see them. So first, I would love to introduce Ayse Barluk. She is the co-owner of Elma restaurant in Penticton, which offers a unique and friendly Turkish-inspired dining experience with the scenic backdrop of the Okanagan Valley. From inception in 2015 to opening the doors in late 2019, Elma has been a true labor of love for Ayse and her husband, Michael, who have been very active in every part of the business, from design to sourcing materials from Turkey, to developing a menu and managing day-to-day operations of the business. Wow, that sounds busy. Ayse also has BA in political science and international relations at UBC, and completed her Master's of Arts in Public Policy and Diplomacy, wow, from the University of Kent's Brussels campus. Wow, so warm welcome to Ayse. Thank you for being here. Next, I will introduce Lee Smith. She is the co-owner and partner of Kettle Valley Memorial, a full-service funeral home offering a modern approach to funeral service. Kettle Valley Memorial was the recipient of the New Business Award at the Penticton Chamber 2020 Business Excellence Awards. She's also the owner and founder of Simple Pre-Plan, a platform for people who plan funeral services easily online for themselves or for a loved one. She's also a mom to 3 wonderful daughters and a wife. Welcome to Lee. And we also have Amanda McPhail here. So she is the co-owner of McPhail Kilt Makers, a niche bespoke tailoring company specializing in woolen products authentically woven in Scotland. The focus of McPhail Kilt Makers is to preserve Scottish heritage and culture through quality craftsmanship and products. In 2019, the company won the Customer Excellence Award through the Penticton Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations as well. McPhail Kilt Makers has a retail store located in Penticton's historic cannery trade center, featuring modern woolen items, Scottish jewelry, which you'll get to know a little bit later, kilt rentals, accessories, and even bagpiping supplies. Wow, welcome to this panel. So excited to have you here. Okay, and now we're going to do a bit of logistics as I spotlight them. And as I spotlight them, I'm gonna start by asking the first question to Amanda, and I'll give you a chance to think about this as I do the logistics. So I'm really curious what you have needed to do in your business to adapt in this past year, thinking about COVID and everything that's been going on. If you can answer that question in just a moment as I spotlight you. So there's Asia.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, fantastic. So when the pandemic hit, it actually took me as quite a shock, because my husband and I, my husband's my business partner, we had just finished renovating a brand new space in the Cannery Trade Center. We had one day where it was very busy. We had the members from the Kelowna Pipe Band come down. They were getting ready for the Spring Fling that was going to be hosted in Penticton, which is where pipe bands from all throughout BC come to do an informal competition. So we were expecting to have quite a lot of people come in for that. We were getting ready for a huge Highland Games season. We had the Canadian Championships for Highland Dance that were going to be in Kamloops. The Okanagan Youth Pipe Band was going to be doing quite a lot of things in Penticton and throughout the valley. And we do a lot of kind of promotion for them. I'm one of the instructors for the Okanagan Youth Pipe Band in tenor drumming. The Victorian Highland Games were going to be coming up in May. And of course, everything was canceled. So the income for our business that I had originally thought was going to be guaranteed ended. And the companies that I make kilts for as well, I make kilts for a couple of companies in Calgary. I also make kilts for a company in New Zealand. Their sales in store and online were at a standstill because events all over the world were canceling. So it was hard to try and make up for lost income because we couldn't make up for it by working harder. The products we were selling just weren't essential, and it wasn't what people were buying. So I was back to square one. There were a few months where their business wasn't coming in. So I decided to weed through bills and expenses, cut down expenses as much as possible, and just kind of ride through it. But as the months went by, we had store frontage done, and it was attracting a lot of attention. So fortunately, people started to slowly come in and asked for things like fashionable looking masks that I could make. And I started to make those, like nice double layer cotton masks with tartan on the outside that could match things like scarves and bow ties and neckties and things, just to make people feel good and give them a boost. So I've made hundreds of masks for people in Penticton and across Canada. People were asking for masks as they became more mandatory. I've made masks for members of the RCAF, in the Canadian Air Force tartan, and just kind of everyone. So it's actually been it's been an interesting year, and it's been interesting to be able to pivot to something kind of different.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's really inspiring that you were able to take your skill of tailoring and literally tailor it to the pandemic and make it work. So congrats on being able to do that. Ayse, I'll turn it over to you and allow you to introduce yourself quickly and ask you, what you have learned over the past year as a business owner.
Okay, finally I unmuted. My name is Ayse, and I am co-owner of Elma Restaurant in Penticton. Well, definitely lots of lessons. We opened our doors in August 2019. So when the pandemic hit, we had not even been fully open for 1 year. Having said that, the biggest lesson I think that I learned was that not all storms come to disrupt your life, and some come to clear your path. And so with that, I really had to let that sink in and look at COVID and then look at our business and try to figure out how we were going to make the best of the situation, so to speak. So I've heard that COVID been referred to as the Great Reset. And this definitely rings true, especially I think for a lot of small businesses. For us, it forced us to take a step back and ask, what kind of company and brand do I want to build now? We kind of thought that we had it all planned out when we opened, and we knew what we wanted, but having the restaurant not even have been in operation for a full year, it became really obvious that you can either choose to focus on the problem or to be driven by a solution. So it was such a simple shift from here's what is not working to here's what I can do to change it. So, working in the restaurant industry, which was undoubtedly one of the hardest hit by the pandemic, our ability to serve our customers was cut by 50%. And this was following a complete shutdown of operations. So, we were a new business. We had just opened in 2019, and we had all these financial targets that were initially set in place to help guide our business into our first summer season and beyond. But COVID clearly did not care about financial targets. So we had to readjust our business plan and financial model to really allow for a change in what our initial ideas and targets were built on. And that was extremely stressful. So to regain control over a situation that we absolutely had no control over, my husband and I, we went through an exercise of writing down scenarios that we thought could play out. So from the most realistic scenario to the most hypothetical, everything from A to Z. And what were the resources that we had at our disposal to deal with each scenario? And seeing it on paper and facing those fears was actually quite empowering, because we went from solely focusing and stressing about each potential problem to looking for solutions to those problems. And we're extremely lucky that we have community partners such as Women's Enterprise and also Community Futures that recognize the fact that we were going through all these changes, and as a small and new business, stepped in right away to ask how we were doing and how they could help before we actually had even reached out to them. So that small gesture, which was enormous for us when we did not even know where to start, showed us the importance in asking for help, which then allowed us to take that guidance that they provided and focus on, you know, tangible solutions and look at ways to kind of embrace the opportunity for our reinvention and how we would be moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuggets in there, from, you know, your A to Z list of what you worked on. And, you know, in our preparation of this call, you also shared with me that you had, you know, your plan A and plan B, but plan B was enough. You know, you needed C and D and E. So all of these extra
That's right.
plans. So was that something that you had even considered prior to this pandemic? Have you ever thought, you know, about something past plan B before?
No, I mean, being such a new business, you think you have it all figured out when you open. You know, you think, okay, the hardest part is over. We've now opened, and you're kind of you're just in the motions of the day-to-day learning as you go. And we were just so new to the business itself, and when COVID hit, just like everybody else, it kind of pulled the rug from under us. And we we had worked with restaurant consultants for about 5 years before we opened, and you know, we had this financial plan and we had all these targets, and it was, you know, okay, we're going to go into our first summer and we're going to hit all these financial targets, and there's all these numbers and you're getting excited about hitting them, and COVID hit, and it was just, you know, everything is gone. You know, none of that matters at all. And now it's a matter of how are you going to survive, and, you know, what assistance do you have around you that can guide you? So I think we may have had a plan B at the most, but that clearly wasn't enough. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board and really look at, you know, what scenarios could play out, and then also what is it that we can do in each scenario, and who can we rely on, and who can we get assistance from, or guidance from, that can help us.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ayse. And you brought up a really interesting point about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, all of the different partners that are available. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but I quickly wanted to say a shout out to the partners on the line. Thank you for being here. I saw Community Futures is here, and Accelerate Okanagan, and Neil Squire. So there definitely are the resources, but it's also finding the time to access those. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but thank you for sharing. Lee, I'd like to turn it over to you now. And just a logistic for everyone, if you're not on speaker view, that will help to highlight our panelists if you haven't done that already in your top right-hand corner. So Lee, I'm really curious what you have done over the past year, or, you know, even prior to show resiliency as a business owner.
Sure thing. Thanks, Danielle. So yeah, just to remind everybody, my business is Kettle Valley Memorial. My husband and I own it together, and we've only been in business for less than 2 years. So when the pandemic hit, we were still like so fresh, so new. And so actually just a few weeks before the pandemic hit, we were at a business after business event, and somebody said to us, that chaos, this was on a completely different topic, because who would have known that this was going to happen? But he said that chaos can be loosely translated into opportunity in Chinese. So when the world did, in fact, turn upside down a few weeks later, we realized that if we actually panicked with all the things that were out of control in the world, that we'd basically be dead in the water, especially being a new business. So instead, we looked for ways to help people. So to be of service, put others first. We really spoke with our actions rather than just our mouths. We decided to step up and be here any way that we could for our community. So things that we did in the wake of the pandemic, when things were shutting down all over the place, even though we're funeral service providers, we couldn't invite people into our space. It was very tricky how to navigate through that during the beginning. So things that we did in order to stay relevant, stay on at the top of people's minds, where we were here for our community. We organized a free lunch for over 40 locals. We partnered with the Wild Scallion on that. We provided frontline workers with gas gift cards, bought and delivered groceries for seniors safely. And that was just to name a few things, but our focus was to always provide value to others. A big pivot that we also had to do was really adopt into technology, like Zoom and things like that. It's one of the things, like funeral service is really far behind when it comes to technology. So that was a big learning curve for us. So just getting on top of all the technology, figuring out how we could get people into the same space to honor the lives of their loved ones, safely. So that was via Zoom. A little perk out of the pandemic was, because we couldn't have people meeting, I came up with a platform that allowed people to pre-arrange funeral services online, select their options, pay, book the funeral home, everything like that. So that was kind of a side business that was an idea before the pandemic, but once the pandemic hit, that really snowballed for us. One unfortunate thing that I really feel that we're going to see coming out of the pandemic is the lack of closure that some people are going to have because they weren't able to honor their loved ones the way that you typically would. A funeral of 50 to 100 people, that sort of thing, those things really didn't happen, or they didn't happen at all, for instance. So for us, what we've really done is stepped up our aftercare program. So what we do is we call families after they lost their loved one. Of course, we can't have the big gathering. So we're just following up with them, making sure that they're still okay. I don't have a crystal ball, but just based on our experience, we really feel like it's almost going to be its own epidemic, having people have like the grief after this grief, because they didn't get to have a proper funeral or a proper service for mom or dad or a brother or sister. So yeah, for us, just making sure that we're following up with aftercare, ensuring that if somebody does want to have a service after the fact, we're totally open to that. But again, just really highlighting the fact that we're here for our community, and we're going to do everything that we can in order to serve families and make sure that that they're being taken care of.
Danielle, you're muted.
Yes, there you go. It's bound to happen once during this call. Lee, you raised a really important point, and that's around mental health. We have shown resiliency in this past year in this survival type of mentality of what's coming next, what can we do now, what can we do now, and it is a question, what are the lasting effects going to be, and how do we look out for one another? So if I can just throw it back to you, Lee, around ways to support one another, do you have any ideas around the mental health challenges that people are going to face after COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great question. I have a group of girls that I talk to on a daily basis. We're kind of called a mastermind, and they're other professional women in Penticton. And one of the things that we do for each other is we ask the question, how can I support you? And I think that's a big lesson, and things that we can offer to whether it's our clients, our friends, our family is the question of how can we support you? So I feel like a lot of times we're so quick to try to fix a problem, especially as women. We're always trying to fix for people. So instead of just coming at people with advice or what they should or shouldn't do, offer the question. Do they need a shoulder to cry on? Do they need advice? Do they just need to be heard? I think that is a key takeaway.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that. And to our other panelists, I'll invite you to think about that. You know, if you have any tips and tricks on how to support one another. But I do want to steer the conversation a little bit more into the experience of being a woman entrepreneur. So we've talked a lot so far about the pandemic and how that's affected you. And I'm really curious about your experiences as a woman entrepreneur, anything you've come up against or any huge opportunities. So Amanda, I'll start off by asking you.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. I think I'm kind of in a unique position as a woman tailoring men's traditional clothing. It's kind of interesting that when I go to events, I meet customers and I meet people that have such ingrained biases about sewing skills. My husband is consistently asked and questioned about his sewing skills, but I've never once been asked about my ability to sew, even though it was my husband who taught me how to make kilts. And the questions that I get, though, are just my ability to run the business and for clients to trust, you know, giving me their money to make their garment for them. I feel like I'm questioned a lot about the history of the garment. I'm questioned a lot about, you know, things that are irrelevant to my ability to do my job. And my husband's never questioned about that sort of thing at all. So I feel like I have to work 10 times harder to try and get the sale than he does. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to prove my ability and to prove myself. And I find that I tend to underestimate myself, recognizing myself as a business owner. I think for the longest time, after I took the leap into becoming an entrepreneur, it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't unemployed, that I wasn't just, you know, staying at home with the kids. I had employed myself, and I was investing in my own abilities.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Amanda. And I see on the chat, someone says, "We hear you, Amanda." So you're certainly not alone in
Thanks,
feeling
Sarah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you highlighted is really interesting around the messages that people were telling you caused you to start to question them for yourself. And that's really the power of our words and our belief systems when we put them on others. So that's a really important thing to note. And Ayse, I'm wondering if you've had similar experiences or different experiences as a woman in business.
Yeah, I can definitely understand Amanda's feelings in that, especially I think for both of us, because we do work with our husbands, we're co-owners. You're as much as you tend to see yourself as a team and both of you are, you know, equal in your business, sometimes it doesn't appear that way to people outside your business. So my experience with that was that I felt like I always also had to work harder and to prove myself as an equal in that partnership, you know, which can be frustrating at the same time, but, you know, also motivating to kind of work a little bit harder. I actually ran this question by my husband yesterday, and and I was curious as to what his thoughts were. And so when I gave him an example of the two of us standing in the restaurant before we were actually open, and there was somebody that came in that was looking to speak to the owner, and we were both standing there side by side, and they completely pivoted and shifted their attention to my husband first and said, oh, you must be the owner. And, I was kind of left by the wayside. So I said to him, do you remember that? And he said, no, I don't. And so I said, you know what, that happens so often, and you don't notice it because you are a man. But as females, as women, we notice it all the time. We have the burden to have to constantly work harder, to prove ourselves more. And, I think that despite the challenges for women in business, generally, juggling work and family obligations, there's kind of never been a better time for women-owned and led businesses right now. We see more and more women are starting their own business, and many are thriving and excelling, and it's really inspiring to see, especially in the South Okanagan. We have so many wonderful businesses that we kind of support, both on a daily basis, but that have a strong female presence and leadership. And when we opened our restaurant and we were networking, I found that it was so nice to kind of be welcomed into this small business realm with open arms and encouragement. And that hopefully, I would hope that, as a mother of a 5-year-old daughter, that there is this shift in society that's starting to see the idea of an entrepreneur as male-dominated concept. And, that we can embrace the qualities that women bring to the term as well, like the emotional intelligence and the soft skills. And those are all so very important, and make a business, excel and make a business really profitable as well.
Yeah, and that's obviously very relatable. I'm looking at the chat, Sarah mentioned that whenever a couple comes in and wants to see her, she shakes the woman's hand first, because they're almost always second to be acknowledged. So that's almost about retraining our habits and retraining ourselves. And so, Ayse, if I can throw the ball back to you for a second, the conversation with your partner, did you talk about strategies on how you can feel more included, or say that situation happens again, would your partner be open to introducing you as the co-owner in those positions? What does that, I guess the reason why I'm asking this is because I believe that men need to come to the table as well, equally. We both need to rise. So I'm curious if that conversation came up.
Absolutely. And I think it was a matter of bringing it to his attention. And maybe I just didn't bring it to attention before because I'm so used to it. And I think that is where the problem also lies, is time say, oh, it just happened again, and then we kind of don't fit. And so I think bringing it to his attention and saying, you know what, this is something that bothers me. And, it would be really great to maybe have your support in that, and to be able to communicate that so that he does know, if we say are standing side by side, and if somebody is asking, oh, can I speak to the owner? The gesture of, my wife and I, we both own the restaurant, or we both operate it, or, my wife is also the co-owner, things like that, I think, help empower us as women, but then also put it back on our partners, to also, help lift us up as well.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And Lee, I'm curious if you can relate to some of these messages that your fellow panelists are sharing around being a woman business owner, and then we'll lead into some questions about resources.
Sure. I would just like to highlight Ayse's point on the fact that we do need our partners and our men in society. They're kind of on the other side. They're the majority, and we need them as allies to also advocate for us. We can, as women, sit here and be like, we need more leadership roles. We need to be recognized. We need to be, our hands shaken first or acknowledged. But I really think it would be important for men to understand that we need their partnership, and we need them as allies on the other side as well. So I just wanted to make that point.
Mhm.
So for me, I've recognized how much women are needed in all operations of business and board positions. So another thing that maybe some of you guys don't know about me is I was GCI president in 2018, and I also sit on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. And I just really believe that our natural abilities and our unique abilities to problem solve, complete tasks, take care of others around us, and, you know, to be honest, get shit done. That's immensely beneficial for all levels of business. Funeral service is still a male-dominated industry. There are more women on the rise, but it's still, I think it's only about 30% of women who are funeral directors, and even less so that are funeral home owners. So I'd really encourage more women to get into leadership roles and speak up, like Ayse and Amanda had mentioned before. But one thing I'd like to highlight is there's two things that I really learned as a businesswoman. And one is that when women fail in business, we tend to fail backward, whereas men tend to fail forward. We take it personally. So if somebody gets fired from a job or written up or something that we would consider a failure, we take it personally. Men don't seem to do that. So what I would always just encourage is, if you do fail, if you do have a setback, if you do make a mistake, just reach higher on your next venture. Just go for it. Another thing that I've just realized, and you know, with a friend of mine, I'm kind of helping her through this process, is that women, we tend to wait till we are either 100% qualified or overqualified to go for that position, that leadership role, that job, whatever the case may be. Whereas, I'm not trying to pick on the men here, but just statistics show that men a lot of times are about 60% qualified and they go for it. So my advice to all women, and to really anybody, is just to fail forward. You don't need to be 100% ready. Just give it all you got. You know, I can personally attest to that. Like for me in a startup position, so with my other business, Simple Preplant, I don't know anything really about technology other than Zoom and email and that sort of thing. So it's been a huge learning process, but I just kind of dove in and I'm just learning as I go. So I would just encourage anybody to say yes to the opportunity and learn as you go.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. I love that. And there's failure is something that every business owner needs to experience in order to grow, in order to try new things. And failures don't need to be huge. They can be these micro, tiny mistakes that happen, but it's really what makes us stronger. So I think that's a really important point. And Lee, if I can throw back to you and ask if you have some key resources that you've utilized as a business owner in the past 2 years that you found really helpful.
Yeah, for me, the term mental health is a really big thing, and I just heard of the term a few weeks ago that was mental wealth. So I truly believe that you know, building a foundation for success through, you know, reading, meditation, exercise, those sorts of things, those small little micro wins or achievements. You know, you got your workout done, you meditated this morning, you picked up a new book that you're inspired by. Those sorts of things, I think those little micro successes are really gonna bleed out into the rest of your life, whether it's, you know, motherhood with your family, friendships, your career, all those sorts of things. You know, I think that's, you know, it's also going to tie into another point I'm probably going to mention a little bit later, but just kind of having a really like kick-ass morning routine really sets you up for success, not only for your day, your week, your month, but your year.
Excellent. I've written this on a sticky note, mental wealth, ! That's a really great reminder. Thank you. And throwing it to either Amanda or Ayse, do you have any advice that you'd like to share with other entrepreneurs who are on the line today? Any resources that you've used, any advice that you've received potentially from a mentor or someone that inspired you?
I could take that up, Danielle. My advice is that, you should always be learning. And Lee, I think you spoke a lot to this of improving yourself through your mental health. That's really important, and your physical health. If you're healthy, your business is healthy. So, and I think when I started the business, I neglected a lot of my physical health. I wasn't getting out there. I wasn't going for my run. I wasn't doing a lot of things, and I was wearing myself down. So to build myself up, I make sure that I go out for that run. I try and keep myself as healthy as possible, and I make sure that I'm still learning. So for when the pandemic hit, it hit my mental health quite a lot. So I actually signed up with Okanagan College for their Associate of the Arts degree program. And I've been doing that. I've got a full set of courses, and I'm running the business, and I'm looking after my mental health and my physical health. And I think that's so important, just to keep your mind on something positive. So that's my advice that I'd like to share with people, is just to keep learning.
Yeah, work that muscle of a growth mindset, like it is a muscle, that learning muscle. So great, great points. And Ayse, I'll ask you if you have any advice, and I'm also asking our audience if you have any questions. So please throw those into the chat, as we'll be spending the next 10 minutes covering the questions that you want to hear as well. So Ayse, over to you.
So I had a mentor during my time working in the provincial government, and she would always say, if you fail, never give up, because fail means first attempt in learning. And if you get no as an answer, remember no means next opportunity. And I've really had to rely on those words to refocus my mindset in the past year and kind of stay on track. So from my experience in the last 2 years being an entrepreneur, I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is to hold your vision and to trust your process. In my experience, especially during the pandemic, I've learned that some of your greatest struggles really become your greatest strengths. So our experiences, both good and bad, make us who we are. And a positive attitude, as difficult as it is sometimes, and a solutions-driven mindset can be a game changer for your business. It's obviously common to look at others for inspiration, and kind of wonder, they've got it all down, and they've got everything figured out. But you can be that energy that you would like to see in any situation. So really focusing, I think Lee spoke to a lot of that as well, focus on what you can do, those morning routines. For me, I took up a gratitude journal, and that has been a really amazing thing. I kind of didn't really understand the concept of it before. I had a couple of friends that were swearing by it, but when I started researching and kind of looking into it, it really did help shift my mindset as well into a more positive mental state, to be honest. So it's been amazing. It's really helped me first thing in the morning to be able to do it. And it's hard sometimes when you kind of want your schedule and you want your routine in the morning to happen a certain time, but things happen, kids happen, business happens, and it doesn't always go the way that you plan. But even taking 5 minutes out of your day to do that and recenter, can really be a wonderful thing for you, just for your mental health.
Yeah, some great tips in there. Thank you. And Carly has a question, throwing it to the panel, whoever would like to cover this. What led you into entrepreneurship, and how did you choose the business you developed?
I can speak to that. So I think throughout my life, I felt like entrepreneurship was something that was destined for me. My mom, Debbie Jones, is here. I see her in the little thing there. She is a female entrepreneur. She owns Town Directory Systems, and I really look up to her. And I see I'm getting emotional. Yeah, so I just felt like, you know, having a mom to look up to as a business owner, that's something that I really wanted to do. And how I chose the business, I feel like the business kind of chose me. You know, my husband's a Scotsman. I like to create things. He decided he was going to do the crazy thing. He has crazy ideas all the time, but he decided he was going to make a kilt for himself. And then we moved to Scotland. We got talking to a lot of people, and we found that there was a call for kilt makers, because it was kind of a cottage industry that was kind of dying off, and a lot of people were getting out of it or retiring, and new people weren't coming up to replace them. So we found that there was kind of a spot there for it, and we grew the business just by people asking us to make things for them. So we moved back to Canada. We were part of pipe bands. There were pipe bands that said, hey, our kilt maker isn't making kilts anymore for us. Would you like to make them? And that just happened in succession. Pipe bands were contacting us and sending us their fabric and wanting to get things done for us. Pretty much, it got so busy that we needed to get our own space outside of the home so that we could do the sewing. And then there were people in Penticton that were saying, oh, I hear there's a kilt maker in town. They're saying that to me. They're saying, you know, there's a kilt maker in town, and I really hope they open up their doors soon. So we decided, well, let's open up the doors and see who walks in. And when people walked in, they would make requests of things, and we would slowly just kind of bring that stuff in and then take it on the road to Highland Games. So it's a bit of a long story, but yeah.
I love it. It's really unique, and I think you shared a lot there. Thank you. Lee, you did mention that you had a morning routine that you wanted to share, and I'm looking at the time. We probably have time for one more question if someone from the audience wants to pop that in the chat. But in the meantime, Lee, can you share with us your morning routine?
Yeah, for sure. So maybe some of you who know me really well know that I follow a program called 75 Hard, but I can get into that like way later if somebody wants to ask me privately. But just to speak to my morning routine, I get up at the same time every single day, no matter if it's a weekend, a holiday, doesn't matter. I'm always up at the same time. As soon as I open my eyes, I get right out of bed. So I use that 5-second rule. You know, I don't allow myself to get so comfortable and swallowed by my bed. I get out of bed right away. So that just sets me off for a feeling of accomplishment right as I get up. So the first thing I do is make my bed no matter what. I meditate for at least 10 minutes every single morning just to set the framework for my day. I always read a minimum of 10 pages of the book I'm reading right now is called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So make sure I do my reading before the kids wake up and that sort of thing. So I wake up hours before my children do. And then I always work out. So it just gets my body into that state of feeling good. It gets the endorphins going, the adrenaline pumping, all that sort of thing. And then, shower and get on with my day. So just knowing that I get a head start on my day just sets me up for success in order to tackle any meetings, be on this panel, whatever the case may be. And of course, a good cup of black coffee always goes hand in hand with that. So.
Wow, that's inspiring. What time do you get up, can I ask?
5:45.
Woohoo, 5:45. All right. But you can get used to anything, right? It's habits. So great, thank you.
And I would just like to make one more point is habit stacking. I mean, a lot of those things are, it seems like a lot. That seems like 5 or 6 things in a morning routine, and it seems hard to tackle. But if you can do one thing for a while and really ingrain that into your routine, and then you can add something else on it. So if you continuously get up at the same time, then you can add meditation, then you can add reading. So I would just really encourage habit stacking if that sounds overwhelming.
That's a really good point. Thanks for adding that. All right, we have just one more minute to cover this last question. So either Ayse or Amanda, you can jump in. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you deal with it? And imposter syndrome is the sense that someone's going to figure you out and find you out, and that you shouldn't be there when you really should. So who would like to take that one?
I can quickly
go ahead.
Oh, I could quickly just take that one, and then you can take it. Yeah. Sometimes I make a kilt, and then I go, oh, what if somebody looks at this, and what if I've made some kind of a mistake, and what if they find out that I can't sew? And even though I know I'm doing a great job, and I know that I've been sewing for years, and then I just think about how ridiculous that sounds. And see, your reactions have shown me how ridiculous that is even.
Thanks for sharing.
I think definitely, Amanda, that's so on point. For me, imposter syndrome, I think it really goes hand in hand with some level of perfectionism as well. And OCD, you hold yourself to a higher standard than obviously anybody else would. So, first and foremost, for me, if I always feel like, am I doing enough? Have I done the best that I could possibly do? And then, if something doesn't go right, then you start getting down on yourself. So I feel almost every day I suffer from imposter syndrome in one way or another. It's what we see. Nobody else is going to notice that, but it's just, I think as women, we are harder on ourselves, unfortunately. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for sharing. I certainly learned a lot from new words like mental wealth. I love that failure is just your first attempt in learning. And that inspiration around reaching higher, creating new habits that will help you. And I just want to take the time to thank you so much for sharing, and a big round of applause. If we were in a big room, it would be a roaring standing ovation. But thank you all for taking the time out of your day to share with us and celebrate International Women's Day. And with that, I will turn it over to Terry, who is going to talk about some door prizes, amazing door prizes. So excited to hear about them. Over to you, Terry.
Hey guys, thank you so much. So powerful, so insightful, and I cannot wait to share the recording with those who were unable to join us. So thank you for taking your time out of your very busy schedules. And now we're going to hand out some prizes. So we have some amazing door prizes. So the first one that we're giving away today is from Kettle Valley Memorial. It's filled with lots of local treats and hand lotions and soaps for you to enjoy. And I used random.org for this. So the lucky recipient of that is Charles from Community Futures. Charles, are you still with us?
Yeah, I see him right there.
Okay. So Charles, you can swing by the chamber and pick that up at any time. And that's donated, like I said, from Lee and Kevin with Kettle Valley Memorial. Our next door prize is a $50 gift card to Elma, which is the most amazing food. It's so unique and the views are stunning. And our lucky recipient of that is Debbie Jones. So Debbie, if you're still on the line. Perfect. Our next gift is from McPhail Kilt Makers. It's a stunning necklace and it can be picked up from Amanda at McPhail, and they're located in the Cannery Trade Center. And the Diana Sterling. Diana, are you still on the line? Yes, it looks like she is. So Diana, you can pick that up or have someone pick that up for you. Thank you, Amanda. Our next gift is from Penticton Women in Business. It is a bottle of wine, and that is going to, I have to check because I have a couple to Janet with Millionaires Row Cider Company. So is Janet still on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, so that could be picked up from the chamber office. So what we do is if your gifts are being picked up from the chamber, just give us a call before you head down in case we're on a Zoom call. We've locked our doors. And then our next gift is from the chamber. It is a $20 gift card to Blend's Coffee, and that is going to Holt. So is Holt still on the line? It looks like it. So Holt, you could grab that from the chamber as well. Then we have a great gift from another gift from Penticton Women in Business. It's organic hand scrub, charcoal face wash, and that is going to Lisa Robick. Is Lisa still on the line joining us? It looks like it. So Lisa, you can grab that from the chamber office as well. And then our final door prize today is from Women's Enterprise Center. It's a Babe Supporting Babes pullover. And that is going to Cassandra with Grizzly Springs Water. So is Cassandra still with us? It looks like it. So
Awesome, thank you.
so Cassandra, Danielle will connect with you
Okay.
to rearrange how to pick that up and stuff. So thank you to our door prize sponsors. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We ask that you pick up your door prizes and share them on your social pages and send a thank you to everyone that you received them from. Have an amazing day and have a most fantastic weekend.
Thank you everyone for being here. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much to our great panelists and wonderful team to work with. Thank you all.
Danielle, I have a quick question.
Yes.
How can one go about purchasing one of those hoodies?
Oh, they're actually available online. So there will be a follow-up email with the recording, links to all of our panelists, and absolutely I will include the sweater. And by the way, it is my favorite sweater. It is so cozy.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.